Hi folks, welcome to your FATEC, this being the 71st season of European club competition, truly pan-European club competition, European competition as we currently understand it, and Rangers having participated to lesser or greater degrees in the vast majority of those 71 seasons of European club competition. It's quite amazing, truly amazing, that tonight, it's only tonight, we finally get to play in one of the most significant, one of the most iconic, Ionic, Doric, Corinthian venues in the history of European club competition. Tonight, Rangers finally get. I mean, we might have played there in a friendly. We might have played there in a pre-season tournament. I don't know if we. I'm not aware of it. If you're aware of it, could you please let me know? Because I would find that really interesting. It's quite amazing that it's only now July 2025. Rangers are finally getting to play a match. I mean, we've played Bayern Munich at the Munich Olympia Stadion, I think that's German for Olympic Stadium, a couple of times in European club competition. We played DWS Amsterdam in the Old Fairs Cup, the forerunner of the UEFA Cup, the forerunner of the Europa League. We played DWS Amsterdam in the Amsterdam Olympic Arena. We played Ajax there in the second leg of the first ever Super Cup tie. UEFA don't recognise it. They don't think it's official, even in terms of the Super Cup. They miss it out most of their publications. That fixture was a home and away thing, but very, very significant. Rangers did invent the Super Cup with the great Ajax team of Cruyff in the early 70s. But I have to be honest and say that I don't actually count the Super Cup as anything other than a ceremonial game, because that's what it is. It's not a competition. It's not even a final. It's the Super Cup. It's the charity shield. It's a community shield of European football. So I don't really count that, but nevertheless, Rangers did play at the Amsterdam Olympic Stadium scene of the 1962 European Cup final, where Puskas scored a hat-trick before half-time for Real Madrid, and Eusebio's Benfica won 5-3 in the days where European finals truly lived up to their billing. Berlin Olympic Stadium, again, we might have played there in a friendly tournament or something like that over the years, but I don't remember us playing there. Certainly, I don't think I've played there in European club competition. We played in Berlin in European club competition against forwards of Berlin back in the 61-62 European Cup, and we played the return leg in Malmo and it got fogged. Anyway, I digress. But the Olympic Stadium Berlin hosted the World Cup final in 2006, hosted the Euros final last summer, the men's Euros final just last summer. That was the men's World Cup final. It hosted in 2006, had the Champions League final 2015, where it was won by the same manager who's holding the current Champions League. Don't think Rangers have ever played there, certainly not competitively. The Stadio Olimpico, that's Italian. That's Italian for Olympic Stadium in Rome. Every time there's a European draw that involves Rangers and Lazio or Roma, or Lazio and Roma, I think it's the UEFA officials get out the old kind of hot and cold balls for that particular draw. I can't think why they wouldn't want the Rangers playing in Rome, but we've played 5 European finals as well, and it's actually quite difficult to play 5 European finals, and none of them are in the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. Now, you might think that's a more significant venue than tonight's in terms of European football, in terms of finals, and in terms of football in general, because it's hosted the World Cup final, and it's hosted the final of the Euros twice, the Rome Stadio Olimpico, as well as hosting both Lazio and Roma. But, I mean, in the Olympic Stadium in Athens, where we're going tonight, has not hosted the World Cup at all. It's not hosted the Euros at all, Greece, but it's not even that old a stadium. You know, it's a lot younger than the Stadio Olimpico in Rome, but it's the Olympics. It's the Olympics. It's a true Olympic stadium, and the sport was invented as far as everybody's concerned, sport was invented in Athens. The Olympics, Mount Olympus, the gods are in Mount Olympus. Zeus and the boys and the girls are up Mount Olympus. That's where they get the name for the Olympics. The Olympics. It's not just the sports shop that used to be in the corner of Argyle Street and that wee bit you get into Seaton Centre. We're going to the home of the Olympics, the ancient, in antiquity. They started the sport in Athens, this sport being just sport in general. And it was the Olympic Stadium that's kind of commemorating that. When they rebooted the Olympics, they started the modern Olympics in the 19th century. They go back to Athens to get that going again. It's never mind the fact it's hosted what I generally feel is the greatest display ever in the final of the European Cup or the Champions League, the greatest kind of winning, not the best final necessarily, but the most dominant and impressive display when Milan won the 1994 Champions League with a whole lot of suspensions, and they gave Cruyff's dream team Barcelona a 4-0 doing, and a 4-0 doing, I've just got in my mind, we could lose by 4-0 tonight, and out we go. We are seeking to become the first Scottish club not to lose at the Olympic Stadium. Celtic, Motherwell and Hearts have all played there in Champions League qualifying, various stages of the Champions League qualifying. They've all lost and they've all gone out the competition. Rangers can still lose tonight, of course, and progress in the Champions League. We can put Panathinaikos out, but it would be nice, to do it. But I'm going to limit my ambition just to Rangers progressing in the tie. But it would be quite a thing to do it at the Olympic Stadium, and one of the most iconic, one of the most significant, one of the most historic, even though it's not as old as us. It's just the whole thing about the Olympics is the oldest sporting thing on the planet, and this is the Olympic Stadium in the city and in the civilization that gave it civilization. Basically, I mean, Mount Olympus is where there's Prometheus decided to rebel against Zeus and start, and gave us fire and gave us culture and gave us civilization according to the old, and that's where he get punished and stuff like that. It's really significant, and I hope we're not getting punished tonight. Preview pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet back in action for the season. I've not had a chance to watch Sunday night's programme. It was on at 9:30 Sunday night, the flagship show. You can get it across various platforms, but it was Craig hosting Colin and Ross, and they're always great value, so it'll be a great pod, and I'm going to get it watched and listened to before kick-off tonight, because it's time to get back into action. It's time to get back into business. It's all business from now on, all competition. No more of this nonsense from me where it's an hour and a half podcast, a 2 hour podcast. I'm disappearing for 4 to 7 days in between times. It's just discipline now, but it's just I mean, certainly hope there's no more friendlies in Rangers' calendar. There's no more room in our calendar for the rest of this season for friendly football. It's just competition. Rangers in competition for 10 straight months. Let's get on it, folks. And you can start that by getting on Gersnet, who sponsor myself. I'm also sponsored by No Way Out. No Way Out's a 1987 film starring Kevin Costner, Sean Young, Gene Hackman, George Zinza, and Will Payton plays the gay PA. It was quite a revolutionary character at the time, but not really when you look back on it now, because it's got to be, I think where gay folk have got to be freaky. They've got to be a bit weird before they're allowed on our screens. But this was 1987, nearly 40 years ago. But after I watched the Euros, the final of the Euros, amazing entertainment watching England beating the Spanish in the final of the Women's Euros the other night. I mean, a national side from these islands winning a major international tournament, and it's quite amazing. But them retaining it and then doing it in foreign soil, unbelievable, a first. And it was quite a thing to watch. But after that, as I waited, kind of calmed down for the rest of the night, I thought, let's watch No Way Out. And I've watched No Way Out about a dozen times, but the first 11 times I watched it were in the 1980s, and it was quite a thing to watch again the other night and realise how weird it was and how kind of crap a lot of it was. I don't want to put you off it. No, I sat there being quite disparaging. My wife's watching it going, did you used to watch this all the time? And it's from the days where, I don't know if you were the same as me, same kind of socio-economic situation, but we had mid to late 80s, everybody had video, because in my case, parents had video recorders, but mostly you'd be taping stuff off the telly at the end of every season, 9 in a row with Rangers. You'd get your video compilation of the season for Rangers having won the league, 86, 87 as well, a video for that. Maybe you'd follow if you were lucky. But mostly you were just getting blank tapes for Woolies and John Menzies and using them to record stuff off the telly, Top of the Pops, Sports Scene, that was it. Maybe Old Grey Whistle Test reruns and stuff like that. But getting an actual movie or something like that was just something you would go to Blockbusters at the weekends and you would get yourself a movie, a wee treat, maybe a couple of films if you're feeling a bit flush. But to actually own a video, own a movie, was still quite a thing back then, and some people weren't really getting into it. Eventually I started building up a wee collection of De Niro, Scorsese, the collabs between them. I'd get Raging Bull and Mean Streets and all that. I was trying to put a wee collection together, but it was kind of, was a bit rich, for most folks. Most folks' tastes, or most folks' wages. So you'd have the odd kind of filtering out. They usually were odd, kicking about a film that you'd actually own. And you would never tape over them. You could use them. You could put the sellotape over the tab with them as well, but it's something you didn't do. And like, my girlfriend at the time, her dad worked security. Somebody was ex-army, and he worked this kind of night shift security job somewhere in Greenock, where the boys would just get in these videos because it was usually dead. A lot of dodgy videos as well, I would imagine, but where they're watching the screens, surveying the building they were looking after. In between times, you just shove on films and things like that. They would chip in together, and he would come home every now and then, and just go, "There you go," and throw her one of the films that they'd watched to keep, and one of them was No Way Out. No Way Out, and it was one of the things you would do. And I had a mate I worked with at the same time. I remember him saying to me, "Have you watched No Way Out?" And I'm saying, "I have watched it quite a few times." It's like it must have just been going on the cheap or something, and people would have it right up to the early 90s, and they would watch it dozens of times because, like, on a Sunday night, if you didn't have any money or you're getting the fear about getting back into work the next day, you would. Let's just stick on a video just to watch a film. You only had like 4 or 5 channels on the telly, so you couldn't turn on Sky Movies or whatever, and folk would just, I'll just chuck on a film that we've already watched 2 or 3 times, and No Way Out was one of the ones that it was a kind of, it was quite raunchy. I discovered when I watched it again the other night. I remember it being like Kevin Costner running about in a sailor's outfit throughout the film, but I'd forgot that in 1987 Kevin Costner was young, and they were obviously trying to get him into the kind of Richard Gere, an Officer and a Gentleman, Tom Cruise, the one with the volleyball, Top Gun kind of bracket, and it wasn't working. He was trying to do the fireman's calendar thing, where there's a scene where he's just in jeans and he's just out the shower and he's all kind of wet and all that, and he's sitting with Sean Young, who also they had her. I mean, a beautiful woman, Sean Young, but they had her dressed up in just the wrong kind of supposedly sexy clothes, and the whole thing's a bit ridiculous. But he's got his zip on. You can see his beauty. It's just I don't want to see Kevin Costner's. But it was really someone. Gene Hackman is doing his best with it, but the whole plot was this is ridiculous, and there's a character in it who's this kind of weird foreign guy who's in a flat at the bottom of Kevin Costner, the flats that Kevin Costner stays in, his character stays in, and he's doing paintings that are rubbish, and he's kind of this weird foreign accent, and he's just been really nosy, and you're thinking he's just been thrown in there as some sort of kind of, the writers have thought we better make it more wacky than this crappy pot boiler, and I was slagging him rotten. This character is an absolute joke. He's just superfluous to the whole thing. Turned out at the end, it was brilliant the way they'd worked him in. I'd completely forgotten what happened, despite having watched it about a dozen times previously, like 30 odd years ago, and it was brilliant. The lesson there is don't write stuff off because you think you've watched it before. You think you know the scenario. This is the 3rd time we're playing Panathinaikos in European competition. They put us out of the Champions League the first time. We put them out the UEFA Cup the second time, and we're 2-0 up for the first leg. We think it's maybe just going to get a bit cocky, just thinking collectively as a support. It's Panathinaikos. We always do fairly well in Athens, apart from that first time against Ajax back in 1994. We're going to be okay. You just got to be careful. So I'm sponsored by Gers and No Way Out, and my name is Alec Anderson. I may not be a lady, but I'm all woman. From Monday to Sunday, I work harder than you know. I'm no classy lady, but I'm all woman. And this woman needs a little love to keep her strong. Yes, I am Alec Anderson. It's not Lisa Stansfield. Just a mammy tribute to Lisa Stansfield, who's best known for that one. It's all around the world tonight. Yeah. Is it called Find My Baby? I've got to find my baby all around the world. All around the world. The phrase you're looking for, Lisa, is pan global. You're looking for pan global. Not like Pan Am, sort of Pan America. It means all over America. The Pan Am Airways, renowned throughout the world, and they actually are pan global, but it was Pan Am because they were selling themselves as going all across America, because that's what you do if you want to be classy. You get yourself a Greek prefix, don't you? Get yourself a Greek prefix. I mean, in the panoply of panhandling, pants podcasting, I'm never going to be up in the pantheon. No, but they're playing Panathinaikos and they cover all the Greeks, all the Athenians. Panathinaikos, Panathinaikos. It's all the Athens types in sport that they cover. All of them do. Panathinaikos, the club we're playing tonight. It's the place that's just invented democracy, invented politics, it invented. I mean, no, it didn't. There's always somebody comes in, with their degrees and stuff like that, and I'm a professor, and they'll tell you that the Etruscans or the Eritreans, I really don't know, actually invented this, that, and the other aspect. But it's a bit like the last time we got into the Champions League group stage, we're told that we had the worst ever Champions League group stage in the old format, the 4-team format in the Champions League, because we had little bits of. We hadn't conceded. The teams had conceded more goals than us in a single Champions League group phase. Plenty of teams had lost all their Champions League, all 6 games in a Champions League group phase. We were only the worst in the individual aspects, but the kind of collection stuff. And conversely, it's just all the stuff that was maybe invented. Somebody else had got there first in terms of inventing sport, inventing democracy, inventing philosophy, or whatever, like maths and things like that. The Athenians, the Greeks, did it all. They did all run about the early times that these things were getting done, and they did them all, together. So they get the credit for being the cleverest folk. Now, I did know a Greek lad, an AEK Athens supporter, great bloke, Photis Stavropoulos, and we played fives every week, sometimes in the same team, sometimes against each other. Because when I went back to the kind of Hillhead area of Glasgow to reset my O-level woodwork, I'd had a few years I was out working. So then I went back to full-time education, and the boys I was hanging about with in Glasgow they'd gone straight to uni. They'd gone straight to higher education, further education, like truly clever people are supposed to. They'd gone straight from school. So by the time I got to know them, that they were all like postgraduates. They were all studying to become doctors, or doctors of this and doctors of that. And Photis became a doctor of mathematics, which is pretty impressive, but standard for a Greek. That's what they all did, didn't they? That's what they all did, especially the ones for Athens. That's been going on for years over there. Talk about fulfilling the stereotype. And he's deeply, deeply clever guy, and yet, I could get him to talk. I remember one night we were out in Edinburgh, which is always a mistake. Was it New Year or something? But we ended up, there was a flat with somebody we knew, it was mum and dad. They were staying with us in the flat in Glasgow, but it was their mum and dad's we were going to stay for. And we went to a party, and it just ends up, it's me and Photis just walking back through some street, big massive street in Edinburgh, to get back to this place. There was no taxis about or anything. And I thought, we're chatting away quite a thing. And I just suddenly said, do you know how you get like in Britain and Scotland, you get all the folk that, Rule Britannia, we had an empire and that kind of stuff. He's like, Rangers supporter. Says, no, I'm not, no, we're not necessarily kind of going on and banging on about it. We don't, have a problem being British, but we're not necessarily going on, but we don't necessarily believe that the British Empire is a thing that should be revived, or it was always a good thing. But do you get the equivalent in Greece that are just giving it, well, we've actually invented everything? We're totally, he's like, no. All he wanted to talk about was Rabsy Nesbitt. He just wanted to talk about Rabsy Nesbitt. Buckfast, he was quite, the banter. He was really interested. He saw Train Spotting, and the boys in the flat room just, that's what it's like in Scotland every night. Big way chucking it. He didn't go out in Glasgow for like a year after that. We're just winding you up, folks. It's a joke. It's not like that at all. But he was fascinated by Rabsy Nesbitt. He loved that. And he loved the badminton and the fives and all that. We would fall out all the time at the fives. And then the night, or the last fives we had before he returned to Athens in triumph, before he went back to do his national service. He's been in the army and all that, folks. His photographs him with a cannon and stuff like that. It's like, you can't be operating that, mate. But he was a great guy, and probably still is. You can lose touch and what have you. But I remember him. I turned up with my Olympiacos top on. He's an AEK Athens fan. I had this Olympiacos top, and I thought, for a laugh, because it's his last game at the fives. He wasn't happy at all. And I thought, well, Alec, if you were in Greece and you had a whole lot of Greek pals, and then one of them turned up with a Celtic top on, you'd probably just think it was a Panathinaikos away top. But I also remember his brother come over to visit. His younger brother come over, so we always did the thing. We would up the Highlands. We took him a wee tour up to places you don't even go of your own volition. If you don't have a foreigner with you in Scotland, I've no interest in. I'm more interested in going to Berlin or something like that than going anywhere in Scotland other than Glasgow. But I went to that place. Was it the Drovers or that famous pub? Where you kid on you've been hill walking and you go in there and you have a pint so I was just hitting the pints, and so was Photis and his wee brother. His wee brother didn't have much English at all, but his Photis was perfect with English. But we'd get in the car to go back. We've had a few drinks. So apart from whoever was driving, and it was all singing let's sing songs for each other. So John, he's for Galway, so he's singing kind of like stuff you would sing coming out the pub and all that dirty stuff. It was fun. I was trying to sing some Scottish stuff and just generally having a laugh. And he said, right, used to what about some Olympiakos supporters songs? What do you say? And they sang this song, the two of them, and it was beautiful. I mean, this is lyric, the lyre. That's the word lyric comes from the lyre in Greece. The poetry, the lyrics that you would create to go along with the tune that was being played on the lyre. And I thought I can hear all of poetry coming for these two lads. Now I don't understand the lyrics, but my God, I feel them. This is beautiful. It's quite almost tearful. And so me and John are saying, so what does that mean? Translate that for us. And it was, we'll cut your dad's throat as we're raping him in front of your mum, you fucking Panathinaikos bastard. And it's like that. It's quite intense, the football. It's quite intense, the football rivalry in Athens. I was quite disturbed, actually, after hearing that. They explained a few of the lyrics. We thought, stop, can't take it. They really hate each other over there. So the whole if you think we're going to go out the other night and they're not sitting reading a bit of Aristotle or Aeschylus or something like that. No, they're going to pan our heads. They're going to pan breeds, etc. It's going to be a hell of a night for Rangers. There's a lot for us to get through. I'm going to try and get through this pod as quickly as possible because it's almost kick-off. I'm so excited about this that I could talk about it all night, but you might actually want to know some football stuff because it's all business. This is it. This is Rangers. I mean, the big thing to talk about, obviously, that's a massive tie against somebody who we've played before, and we remember playing them before with varying results, some good and some very, very bad. That's right, we've drawn Alloa Athletic in the last 16 of the League Cup. It's a comedy, tragedy, very, very similar. If you get it wrong, that was going to be my joke. That was going to be my joke for this game, but it's like... it was 10 years ago. It was over a decade ago, December 2014, that the Alloa came over 2-0 up. 2-0 up, and we thought we were fine. I mean, that was a semi-final, and it was only the Challenge Cup. But you should be happy, shouldn't you? The fact that you're in the Champions League, you're playing Champions League, even qualifiers, and you're going to the Olympic Stadium, you're playing a club like Panathinaikos, that just reminds you, the fact that you were in the Challenge Cup and you were 2-0 up against Alloa with like 18 minutes to go, and you managed to lose the game 3-2. You should be over. Well, you don't say to somebody who's been to Vietnam, you don't say to them, but you're not in Vietnam anymore. You just remind them about the fact they were in Vietnam, and it brings the trauma back, doesn't it? It just brings the trauma back. So don't talk about the fact it was Alloa, and we'll deal with Alloa in the League Cup when we have to. Panathinaikos, the bad memory's not as bad. Michael Moles opening the scoring at Ibrox and then beating us 3-1. Angelos Bassinas hitting one from like the halfway line. That was the set. We drew one each over in Athens at their wee ground, the 16,000 capacity actual home ground, Panathinaikos. And we drew one each the next time we played them, which was the second leg of a UEFA Cup last 32. Was it last 32? Was it last 16? Did we drop into last 32 because we've also played Werder Bremen. That'd be last 16. Sporting was the quarter final, wasn't it? So it was quite. We made up for the trauma. It wasn't even much of a trauma because we're already struggling. It was a Champions League group with Manchester United and Panathinaikos and VfB Stuttgart, and we were kind of struggling anyway. It was just we had to beat Panathinaikos in the last game to take third spot to get into to drop into the UEFA Cup, and we went 1-0 up, but they gubbed us. And so last Tuesday was the first time in 3 attempts that we've beat Panathinaikos at Ibrox. Panathinaikos are. They're like the second best team, basically historically now, the second best team in Greece. You've got your Is it Oi Tres Megaloi or Oi Megaloi Tres? It's the big three. The big three. They're basically in Athens. You've got the port of Athens, Piraeus, where Olympiacos hail from, and Greece is one of these. It's only 5 clubs in Greece have won the Greek league, or the Super League anyway. I don't. If you go back to the early days, the early 1900s, I don't know when the league was formed. There might be other clubs in there. My knowledge isn't tremendous off the top of my head when it comes to the Greek Super League, but I remember it because, like in Scotland, we think our league's a bit Mickey Mouse in comparison with a lot of other European countries. But 10 teams, 10 different clubs have been champions of Scotland. You know, the kind of maybe the slagging really. The caveat is that 2 of them have almost won the lot of them, and the other 8, where you'd Aberdeen, Hibs and Hearts have all won. They've all been champions of Scotland 4 times each. Then you've got Dumbarton, who've been champions of Scotland twice, and then it's Dundee. Both Dundee teams have won the league once each. Kilmarnock, Motherwell, Third Lanark. Is that the lot? I named everybody. They've all won it once each. Whereas in Greece, you've only got 5 clubs that have won it. But at least the big three, they've got the big 3 that they've divided most of the league titles between them. But even now, suddenly, like Panathinaikos haven't won the league. I think it's 2010 or 2011. It's a while since they've won the title in Greece. They're the only Greek side to reach the final of the Champions. The first Greek side to reach a European final was the final of the European Cup, which they lost to Ajax at Wembley in 1971. Ferenc Puskas was their manager. And his Greek connection leads to him, working in Australia with a young Ange Postecoglou. But Olympiacos are the second team to reach second Greek side to reach a European final, which 2 seasons ago when they won the Conference League at AEK Athens ground, their new ground near Philadelphia, their new ground in New Philadelphia. But only 5, I think, of the 21st century Greek league titles have been won by anybody other than Olympiacos. Suddenly Olympiacos are like 46 or 48 times they've won the Greek. They're heading for 50 Greek titles, and Panathinaikos on second place with only 20. Then it's AEK Athens with, 13, 15, something like that. You've got the 2 Salonika, PAOK and Aris Salonika, and it's Larissa. Larissa, I think they've won the title in Greece once. So that's, they've got 5 clubs that have only won the title there, but at least they've divided the vast majority between 3. But even now the 21st century is like you see the same with Bayern Munich and Juventus, and that it just become the English title being won 4 in a row for the first time ever. Man City. This is the era of the monopoly. And even though Panathinaikos have their shamrock and their green and white colours and all that, they're us. And I think Olympiacos are Celtic right now. It's just like they're going to have to start clawing them back some way. So they've got their problems at home to deal with, the same as ourselves. My memories of Panathinaikos. First of all, I was talking about how Findlay Kenneth Curtis, born on the 9th of June 2006, our number 52, who scored the first goal of this tie last week in the 52nd minute. I was talking on Sunday there about how he's the first Scot to score against, maybe only the second Scot ever to score against Panathinaikos in Europe, the first Scot to score against them since John Wark. And that was the 1984-85 European Cup semi-final. Of course, that leads to Liverpool going to Heysel. But I think Liverpool won the home leg 4-0 or 4-1 or something like that. Wark was one of the goal scorers. And Mark Lawrenson, I remember seeing this in the telly, Mark Lawrenson scoring the only goal of the game in the Olympic Stadium in Athens to beat Panathinaikos in the second leg as well, just to complete that. But obviously they'd won their semi-final, whoever they played against in the 1970-71 European Cup. They put Everton out. They did put Everton out that season. Everton were champions of England in 1970. So on their way to the final at Wembley, they put out Everton, and David Johnson, who then went to Liverpool. I'm sure he scored against them at Goodison. Anyway, I also remember the guy is Varchika. I thought it was Robert Varchika. I think it's Christoph Varchika. I was looking this up earlier on the day just to check his name, but I remember him scoring in the first leg of the 95-96 Champions League semi-final. He's a legend, this Polish player. He's a legend for Panathinaikos. He was there for years, scored all sorts of goals for them. But I also thought he was more of a winger than anything else, but I think he might be a striker. Wee guy with a tash. He scored the only goal of the game at the Amsterdam Olympic Arena before, Ajax had the Amsterdam Arena that became the Johan Cruyff Arena. Before they had that, they would play all their big games. Was it Dermeer was their home ground, and then they moved. It was a kind of small ground, same setup as Panathinaikos, and they would move their big grounds to Olympic Stadium, which Panathinaikos were doing, from their small stadium with the second leg, and Ajax went over there and gubbed them 3-0 in the second leg. In the Olympic Stadium, and one of the scorers was Jari Litmanen, a Finnish international, and we're after Oliver Antman, aren't we? Who's a goal-scoring Finnish international who plays wide, just like Jari Litmanen scores for the Finland national team. But they went over there and they beat them 3-0 to put. So I remember them getting to the semi-final a couple of times of the European Cup or Champions League. Panathinaikos, I think I remember that run in 95-96 was, I think, the quarterfinals in an earlier round anyway. They played Legia Warsaw, and you young football kit experts out there will know the pattern for this, the terminology, but it was like the same pattern. I think were maybe both Adidas kits. So Legia Warsaw playing in green and white, and Panathinaikos playing green and white, and basically, and you've got a Polish guy playing for Panathinaikos. But across the two legs, they both wore the same kit, the home kit and the away kit, against each other. The only difference was the badge. It was quite amazing because it was the same. Do you know how we had the Adidas kit at that time, had the white panels in the 92-93 Champions League, the first ever Champions League, with the panels, and Marseille had the same panels just in their colours on that kind of idea. And it was quite. They had the same colours though, Legia Warsaw and Panathinaikos, so they were wearing each other's. That's something I remember. I'm really ruining this game, and I'm fairly taking the edge out of it. Tony Harrison. He'd be turning in his grave if it wasn't for the fact he's actually still alive. Tony Harrison, I was checking up on him today. The Bard of Beeston, the Leeds, famous Leeds poet. The minute you mentioned Athens and Greece, and just I start thinking about the famous poet, the infamous poem, V, which gives Leeds United a little mention, and here with Parag Marath and what we might end up getting pumped out of Europe, having done nothing wrong next season, because Leeds have also qualified for the Champions League. You never know how it's going to work, but in fact he famously translated Aeschylus's Oresteia, so it's made me think of Tony Harrison, and there was the faint kind of connection there with Rangers. It's the partner's really bad. I'm sorry, folks, but we've got Joe Rothwell in there as well, and we're going to Athens, and Leeds lost. We won the Cup Winners' Cup in '72, get banned for 2 years, which commuted to a year, so we couldn't defend the Cup Winners' Cup. And Chelsea haven't reached the final in '71 and won it. Then we won it in '72. In '73, Leeds got to the final, and they lost in, I think it was Thessalonica. They lost the final to Milan. They lost 1-0, and it was one of the most awful refereeing performances of all time. The referee was basically get banned. It was a Greek referee, and he was just taking all sorts of money from Milan. It really bent refereeing of that game, which Leeds only lost by a goal to nil in Greece. And the season before we won it, it was Chelsea winning it in Piraeus, winning the Cup Winners' Cup final against Real Madrid. So I think that's a connection, is it? I don't really know if it is, but it's making me think of kind of legends and stories, and where it comes to the mythology, mythos. This is painful, sorry, but we all have kind of tales in our shared narrative. Our communal memory, really, as football fans, our football team's kind of mythology, but more than that, we've also got these kind of caveats, these little addendums. They're kind of shoehorned in prologues, where if you're sitting in the pub and all that, and somebody's just waxing lyrical about a well-known great moment in your club's history, you want to come in there and just prove that you're a better fan. But also adds to the mythos and adds to the mythology by going, I but, do you remember? do you remember what actually happened? If you remember correctly, like I do, because I'm a better supporter than you, it kind of proves that you're more than an average fan. But it primarily likes to deepen the mythos and even add even more romance to this particular chapter in the tale of our team's greatness. These interjections have to be a kind of pointing out the odds weren't always in our team's favour in this season or this cup final, this match that we're recalling. All the years of kind of cockily celebrating this player or this game or that season it's made us forget how it could also easily have gone the other way. Like Mark Hateley wasn't always one of my favourite ever Rangers players, but he wasn't loved when he first arrived. He was pretty much disliked by most of the Rangers support. Mark Hateley, it took him a while to settle in. Andy Gorham, I remember, a true Rangers, probably the greatest goalkeeper. Alan McGregor eventually overtook him through length of service as well as being an equally brilliant shot stopper. But Andy Gorham, I just thought was the greatest player I've ever seen in any position, really, for what he did as a goalkeeper. But he let in, he was responsible coming out really poorly when Keith Wright scored the only goal against us at Hampden for Hibs in the League Cup semi-final early on in Andy Gorham's Rangers career. He was getting pelters for that, put us out the League Cup. The Cup Winners' Cup final team, 1971-72, I mean, they nearly chucked a 3-goal lead because they wanted to swap their jerseys. They wanted to keep the the kind of commemorative jerseys with the fancy patter. Cup Winners' Cup final writing round the crest because they knew they were going to swap their jerseys with Dinamo Moscow at the end of the game. So they put on their own. But the commemorative jerseys had also been specially designed to be lightweight because of the heat in Catalonia. So they go out there wearing the kind of wool knit usual Rangers jerseys that they would be wearing against Dundee at Dens Park in January. They go out and they wear that in the second half. Obviously, we go up a third goal in 4 minutes into the second half, but that's supposed to have played a bit of a part in the fact that we ended up kind of hanging on at the end. On the Battle of Britain win against, we're talking about Leeds United, the Battle of Britain win against, we're a goal down. The win that makes us the first British club ever to qualify for the Champions League proper, a historic achievement. The Champions League group stage, first ever British team to qualify for that. It wouldn't have been if Leeds had beaten us, but we beat them home and away. Everybody remembers, but of course we went a goal down. That's part of the mythos. That's maybe a better known, but that's the idea. The setbacks, put the setbacks in there. The group stage campaign that followed that. Esprit de corps, we're a goal away for the final, unbeaten, this massive unbeaten run in all competitions, 44 games, but including the first ever Champions League. Quite a thing, but the first game we played in that Champions League group stage were 2-0 down at home in the piss and rain to Olympic Marseille. But we managed to come back later on. You forget about how things were going. The run to Seville, 2021, 2022. Well, that started off with us getting punted at the Champions League qualifiers by Malmo, despite the fact we're playing against 10 men in the second leg, and we'd taken an early lead to cancel out their lead over the tie, but certainly Antonio Cholak scored the goals, and then we lose our first 2 games without scoring a goal in the group stage of that Europa League. We'd just get past Alas Kert by the odd goal with John Lundstrom getting himself sent off, but ends up we get to the final, and it's, well, the semi-final against Leipzig is the greatest memory of my Rangers life, but it's just that wee thing of, you forget just how bad it wasn't all plain sailing. I would love to think that at the end of this season, we're going to look back in years to come on Russell Martin's reign as Rangers head coach and just all the league titles he won for us, all the European trophies he won for us. Let's just throw them in there as well. And we'll be talking about how we all knew it was going to be great. We knew it was going to be fantastic because of that great night we had against Panathinaikos, his very first competitive match in charge, and he's got the young boys out there scoring 2 cracking goals. But the IBOT crowd, the IBOT guys will be like, but it's either going to be, but you remember how we should have been 3-0 down at half time. There's only some cracking saves from Jack Butland, or it's going to be Panathinaikos pumped us 4-0 in the return leg, and it was that was we thought he was going to get sacked before October, but he managed to hang on there and become the first Rangers manager since Steven Gerrard to complete an entire season in charge, even though he's no manager. He's a head coach. We haven't won. Well, we have won. I think this last week's win against Panathinaikos was only our second in 13 Champions League games. Any game in any stage of the Champions League competition. Last week's win was only our second in 13. We had that. Yeah, we beat Servette 2-1 at home under Michael Beale. And we should have had them put away, the man sent off, and Sam Lammers missed an open goal kind of thing. But we should have put them away, but we beat them 2-1 anyway. And we drew the return leg. We drew at home with PSV Eindhoven, and they scalped us 5-1. And before that, we did the 6 group games. We lost a lot of them. We returned to the Champions League group stages. So this whole thing about we should be glad that, I can remember getting beat 3-2 off Alloa after being 2-0 up against them with 20 minutes to go in the Challenge Cup semi-final at the end of Drill Stadium, the Recreation Park under Super Alley. It should make us appreciate the fact that we're now competing again. Well, we did all that. The previous season of the Champions League, where we drew 2 each at home with PSV, and then we beat them 1-0 over there. We beat them 1-0 in Eindhoven. You remember it, Antonio Cholak, Malik Tillman playing a part as well. And then that was it. Since then, we've won twice, and the second time was last week with Dynamo Kiev, and we drew in Lublin with them at the beginning of last season, the first leg of that third qualifying round tie in the Champions League, and then they beat us 2-0 at Hampden in the return leg. So we want to win the European Cup. Talking about epics, talking about Celtic have got the Caesar thing. They've gone a bit Roman. But we want these, we want to beat these Athenian bastards tonight. Athenians, we want to beat them tonight. Maybe we want to do it the Athenian way. If you want to get a bit more Greek about it, beware of Greeks bearing grudges about the fact they should have been 3-0 up at half time last week, but we had some great last ditch tackles and some good goalkeeping, and they had a man sent off. But the season has begun. I think the Middlesbrough friendly kind of queered the pitch slightly. We had the first, and it was a first leg, and it's in July. I don't think I'll ever get used to us playing European games in July. I'm a child of the 80s kind of thing, but it seems a bit unreal at times. Playing when you don't really need the floodlights. Sometimes it's still so light when the game's taking place, but it's not. It's the beginning of your European run, not at the end. It's not because you're playing a semi-final, in April or May. It's because the qualifiers start so early. There's always a slightly unreal feeling, and then having a pre-season friendly in between the 2 legs, it's kind of queered the pitch slightly, and it's distracted from the fact that last week was the start of competitive action. But it's all business from now on, as I was saying earlier on. But simultaneously we could be out of one competition before we've had our first league match, before we've had our first League Cup match. We could be out of the Champions League. It gets material tonight. It gets real. It gets very, very real. And the thing I'm thinking about tonight is what it will do for Russell Martin. I see the Borough friendly kind of distracted us from the fact that the season had already started, but so did the fact that the last season was a first leg. Tomorrow, however, we can go out of a competition. The game will be played to a result. A victory means I will temporarily forget the defensive frailties, the wobbles of last Tuesday's first half. Be a solid concrete progression if we, however we go through in penalties. We lose 2-0, we lose by 2 goals. We go through in penalties. However we manage to do it tonight, if we can go through, it'll be a solid kind of concrete possession. It'll be a material gain for Russell Martin. It'll augment his momentum, and you would then hope he could follow up with a league victory against Motherwell on Saturday, and that's what a start that would give him. But a loss, and it's quite easy when you saw that the frailties we did have in the first half last season. Quite easy to imagine us conceding a lot of goals tonight. It is having a bit of a collapse with a team that's really not even knitted together yet. You can still see the joins. But a loss would mean we temporarily forget about the context in which we're playing this tie. It's July, as I say, it's just July. We're at the outset of yet another massive Rangers rebuild. Every season is a huge rebuild, and Russell Martin's already shown kind of massive promise in what he has, his embryonic, kind of far from the finished article team, what he has them doing. But no, that'll be forgotten because it's a material, unavoidable, brutal setback if we don't advance now. And it's going to cost us money. It would cost us money not to go through tonight, and it means another crucial few weeks of the summer transfer window being unsure exactly how much money we have to spend. It would waste time for us. It would kill. It would ruin our chances in a lot of different incomings. I would imagine that Dan Purdy, Kevin Thelwell, Patrick Stewart, they'll have kind of 4 budgets set out. The first one will be for no European competition, for Rangers to have no group stage European football, for us to lose all 3 of these qualifying ties that we're going to have to play in one competition or another before the group stage. To win tomorrow night, sorry, tonight, I'm talking just after midnight, but for us to win this tie tonight, it would mean they could jump straight to the second budget, and they could miss out budget number 3, which is Conference League football, Conference League group stage football, and they can go straight to Europa League football, but still not knowing, we can still make it if we continue in the Champions League. And I have to. That's a snagging item. Big Phil, who's lovely guy, regular poster in the comments section. Always appreciate his feedback. He was correcting me last week. I was saying the post match reaction pod. I was thinking if we lose this tie, then we lose with Europa League tie. We've got a chance of we can play. Or if we win this tie, we're guaranteed to at least have Conference League football. Sorry. But it's going to be the same as last season, whereas we lost. If we get through to this next round, the third qualifying round of the Champions League, if we lose that, we drop straight into the Europa League group stages. So if we win tonight, we're guaranteeing ourselves Europa League group stage football at the worst if we progress in this tie. So that would let them just jump to knowing, right, it's Europa League money that we're going to have available at worst. And, obviously, if we win the next tie, that would mean Champions League group stage money, and that would let us buy a whole lot more players. But if we go out tonight, it just creates uncertainty, and it guarantees that we're going to have, in terms of the transfer market, and it guarantees we're going to have less money at our disposal at a time when we're trying to squad build. I think it'll be covered generally, but it'll certainly hold us back. But the stability, the suitability of Russell Martin to the Rangers job, it's a story that will kind of supersede tonight's result, irrespective of whether we progress or whether we're eliminated by Panathinaikos. But it would mean so much more positive momentum if we could go through. It would make it easier to do, because we are not very good as a support. I think most football supporters are like this, but when we see a chance, it's like, if you're not going to take that chance, don't bother making the chance. I think Cyril Desser's Rangers career sums it up. It's almost like, it doesn't matter if he scores the winner in the game. If he's missed 9 previous chances in the same game, we can't be bothered with it. It's like, we don't give you any credit for creating the chance, for getting into the area, for finding the space to take the pass. It's like, if you're not going to put it away, don't bother. I remember when Philippe Clement lost his first domestic match in charge of Rangers, which was at Parkhead of all places, and it looked like that was him chucking any chance of winning the league, even though he'd just come into the job a few months earlier in a kind of crisis situation. And he immediately responded by winning his next home game against Kilmarnock, beat them 3-1 just before the winter break. There was still a winter break then. And he come back after that winter break, January into February, and just motored and just ticked teams off, and we were getting closer and closer to the top of the league, and we went top of the league, and we won again while top of the league. And I remember saying that's the problem here. He's done fantastically to recover from that loss to Celtic, which he's also still carrying the deficit of Michael Beale's poor start to that season, and to get us top of the league at all is phenomenal, and shows that this guy could be a good manager. But if he doesn't now win the league, he'll be a failure, because he's got us in that situation. And I think this is the problem. The only way we are going to be eliminated by Panathinaikos is by chucking a 2-goal lead. We have the 2-goal lead. It's not a case of, we could have been 3-0 down at half time last week. It's fantastic that we didn't get humiliated at Ibrox. It's, you've got a 2-goal lead. You now need, it's humiliation for you to go out tonight. So it would set Russell Martin's it would set his reputation back. There's already a lot of doubters there, myself having been one of them initially, but it wouldn't help. On a personal level, our last 3 European games at Ibrox, and I was at them all, last 3 European games at Ibrox, you think about it, it was losing 2-0. what a night that was. A fantastic. We lost 2-0 to Fenerbahce at Ibrox, but my God, the celebration, and we progressed, and it was, we put out Jose Mourinho, we put out Fenerbahce, a great name in Europe. What a night that was. Tremendous. Next game, 0-0. It's a 0-0 at Ibrox. It's against Athletic Club of Bilbao, a really famous club. They've got La Liga money, they're at the top end of La Liga. They've got some cracking players. We weren't expected to do anything. We went down to 10 men, then we went down to 9 men before the end. We'd go out of the tie, though. We did, by the second leg, we'd gone out of the tie, but it was a quarter-final stage. We're chuffed to have done that, and we fought really well, and we're quite chuffed. So we've lost 2-0, drawn 0-0. Last Tuesday, we won 2-0, and I'm now terrified that we're going to reverse the away result we had against Fenerbahce. We won 3-1 in that part of the world. Don't tell anybody from Istanbul you're comparing it to Athens, but you know what I mean. For us, it's that same thing. It's intense, hot, literally, and hot kind of metaphorically in terms of the atmosphere in these venues. Didn't bother Rangers last season. Rangers went to Malmo, not a frenzied atmosphere, but a packed stadium that was against us. We went over there and we won 2-0. We went to Piraeus, which was red hot as well. Held them, should really have beaten them on the night. We go to Fenerbahce, and it could quite easily have been 5-1 to Rangers on the night. Fenerbahce being one of the most infamous atmospheres in all of European football. Not a problem to us. So I'm now worried that because we've got the home results are going correctly, we're going to go back to our old away results in European football. But hopefully not. Hopefully we can carry on as we did last season on the road. Little bit of news in between times. Let's a wee bit of an update, transfers and stuff like that. We're still rumoured to be in for Oliver Antman from Go Ahead Eagles of Deventer in the Eredivisie, but I saw something recently about the chairman of that club. The chairman only wants to sell one of his big names, and Celtic are in for another guy. So this will be Peter Lawwell. Doesn't want to spend money, but the money he does spend, he'll use it to maximise his playing to the galleries, probably. Or maybe they just happen to be interested in that other player. So if Celtic can get that other guy, then they're not going to sell Oliver Antman. Sounds like just a whole lot of nonsense to me. We'll find out if that goes through or not. But he's a wide player. And then there's Mikey Moore, who did catch my eye last season just for the headlines. He's basically Tottenham's Findlay Curtis. He's going to be 18 next month. He'll turn 18 next month. Academy graduate at Spurs, but he scored against Elfsborg. He came on in a league game, I think it was against Ipswich, and set some sort of record for being the youngest guy since such and such to play for Spurs since the 90s or something, to play for Spurs in the league. But he come on, he played against Elfsborg. And the night we were beating USG, the night we were beating Union Saint-Gilloise in the last round of group fixtures in the Europa League, Spurs were at home to Elfsborg of Sweden, Jimmy Tillien's old club, and on comes this. I don't know if he came on as a sub, I don't know if he'd been playing the whole game, but it was right in the dying embers of the game, and Elfsborg probably tried to get up the park, but he scores a goal and he takes the ball. It's round at the halfway line, or just inside the Elfsborg half, that he gets the ball and he beats a few guys, outruns a few guys, and slots away past the goalie from the edge of the box. A cracking goal, but it's the youngest, made him the youngest English player ever to score in European club competition, and the youngest since Jimmy Greaves, Spurs legend Jimmy Greaves. He beat Jimmy Greaves' record, but Jimmy Greaves set that record while he's playing for Chelsea. And as a Chelsea player, he was playing for the London 11. The London 11 select side, who played the first edition of the Fairs Cup, took 3 seasons to complete. But it was a lot of select sides from various European cities were playing in that, and the London 11 select reached the final, the first British club to get to a European final. See Birmingham City, who were the second, they beat us to it as well. A lot of publications say it's ourselves because of the Cup Winners' Cup final in '61, but no, Birmingham City made 2 straight Fairs Cup finals, and the first one they definitely beat us. It was the previous season, but they're going to get a 62,000 capacity St Andrews. They're rebuilding St Andrews, or building another stadium somewhere else, Birmingham City. So we can't. Come on. They've got their American ownership. Come on, guys. We can't have Birmingham City having a bigger stadium than the Rangers. So let's get the announcement of that 64,000 or 75,000 capacity Ibrox reboot. Let's get that out there. I'm really looking forward to that. But Jimmy Greaves, he scored against Lausanne Sport of Switzerland for the London Select 11. It was the quarterfinals or the semi-finals of that tournament. And at the beginning of that tournament, the London Select played in the first ever match in European club competition as we currently know it, and they beat Basel. It was a Basel Select in the St Jacobs Park by 5-0. I don't know if Greaves played in that game. He didn't score. Cliff Holton got a hat trick, and the South African-born guy who played for Charlton, and Eddie Firmani. He scored the first ever goal in European club competition, as we currently know it. But that was in the St Jacobs Park in Basel, where England's ladies just won the first time England have ever won. An England senior side have won a major trophy abroad on foreign soil, and it was back there that always making history, And then Jimmy Greaves is scoring at Stamford Bridge for the London 11 against another Swiss side. So there's a whole London Switzerland thing going on with the records he's setting there. But anyway, Mickey Moore and Oliver Antman are very different stages of their career. Antman's in his early 20s, and I say he's played like 20 odd times for the Finland national side, and he's scored a goal every third game for them. So he's quite an interesting prospect if we get a hold of him. And Mikey Moore seems pretty interesting as well for a young guy. We'll be getting him on loan apparently if we're going to get him at all. But I think there's always interest from other clubs. What are we looking for tonight? Well, it's just the start of the season. What I'm really looking for, it feels like the start of the competitive season, even though we had that game last Tuesday, obviously, that's set this up tonight. But what I'm looking for is my obsession, basically, is I want us to win the league. I want us to win the European Cup. I want us to win the Champions League. I want us to win everything always. But I think the main thing is the same thing it's been for the last 4 or 5 seasons. I want the same guy to be in the job at the end of the season, because that will mean we've made enough progress. It means we've probably won something. But could we just have Russell Martin in the job? And I was something else I didn't explain very well probably on Sunday was this idea, something that's happened to me in life, when you fixate on something, you really want something so badly it's almost crippling you, or you really need it so badly because you need it so badly. And then the way it happens is never the way you expected it, and the way we all think just now about winning the league. We want, because we've been getting slagged rotten by Celtic fans for like 4 straight seasons now, and we think, like, make us champions, we'll turn that around, get it right in their face. By the time we've won, you see it coming, things like that, you will see them coming. I was talking about the Andy Murray thing about how we wanted him to win Wimbledon, we're obsessed with him winning Wimbledon, but then he won the Olympics, so it was at Wimbledon. It wasn't Wimbledon, but it was played at Wimbledon. It was fewer games or fewer sets, and obviously he's Great Britain versus Switzerland. It's not Andy Murray versus Federer, and he's winning it with a kind of the British uniform on, not the whites, not the tennis whites that the guys have got to wear in the All England club. And then he won a major. He won the US Open, and it just kind of, it made it seem less chasmic, the transformation that was going to be required to get him to win Wimbledon. It was kind of happening. He'd won a major, and he'd won at Wimbledon before he actually won Wimbledon. So in many ways, it became much more expected, and you could see it happening in a way that you really believed. Whereas, and when I was growing up, it was a dream. The idea of seeing a British player winning Wimbledon was like, so by the time it happened, it was very, very realistic. You'd less panic about it. And I think since Steven Gerrard left, I've been getting obsessed with, we need to have the same, we all have been getting obsessed with Rangers needing to have the same manager for a complete season. We haven't had a manager for an entire season since Steven Gerrard left. And I think, though, in the fact that he's now a head coach, he's not a manager, it's a head coach, even in that, the responsibilities are more diffuse. It's been spread about amongst various guys. The management side, the manager aspect of it has been taken away and thrown to, Russell Martin still bears the brunt of it, but, Patrick Stewart's taken a bit. I'd imagine Dan Purdy is taking a bit. Kevin Thelwell's certainly taken a bit of it. It's been put across all the different kind of guys. Some of them were trying to do already under Clement and that, but I think what's also going to happen this season is that the challenge to Celtic is going to come from different sources as well. It's going to be more diffuse than it just being, it's either Rangers or Celtic that win the league. It still will be either Rangers or Celtic that win the league, you would imagine, but Aberdeen's Scottish Cup win last season kind of compounding how Jimmy Thelen had started the season. When people thought for a second they might, finish above us in the league, if not actually, take the league title from Celtic. But that evaporated pretty quickly. But he comes back and he wins the Scottish Cup. That's a major significant thing. Aberdeen have won the Scottish Cup more recently than us. That was quite a major thing last season. And with the money, I know there's certain American influence. Aberdeen, that's been in the wane recently from Atlanta. Atlanta United, not Atalanta. But also you've got Hibs and Hearts. Hearts looking really good just now as well. Tony Bloom's influence there. They got the Black Knight stuff going on. At Hibs, they've also got maybe not the same level of backing as ourselves right now, but there's that experience, more money, and experience of how to allocate that money, how to use that money, the money ball use of that cash to gain success from the people that are getting. Well, Tony Bloom's done this at Brighton and Union St Gilloise, and I think he's done it in the States or Australia. I could keep meaning to check up which other club he's involved in. And the fellow who is at Bournemouth, who's doing it at Hibs as well. So they were going well last season. Hibs, Hearts look like they're going to go well. You get Derek McInnes in there, they're going to go well this season. So it'd be just like the thing if finally Celtic don't win the league and oh shit, but it's not us that's won it. we get beaten a final day title decider by Hearts or something. Oh, how historic! It's amazing that somebody's broke the Old Firm deal. That's it. Fuck. I really wish that hadn't happened. But it's a chance. There's a chance that could happen. It's going to be. We could end up dropping points to other teams while having the whip hand over Celtic or something that has happened last season, but just in a different way. But I think the main thing is just to see some sort of progress. I can't help talking about these things, but I'm not going to talk about that yet. Rangers, we're going to, a wee interesting thing. We're going to an Orthodox Christian place. Orthodox Christianity in Greece. Obviously, I think we do quite well. In the early 90s, we had a bad time. We get stuffed by Crvena Zvezda in Belgrade. We, lost to AEK Athens in their previous stadium. They infamously put us at the Champions League as well. With Red Star Belgrade, they were on their way to winning the actual European Cup in 1990-91 when they gave us that stuffing over there. But since then, with a couple of draws, as I say, with Panathinaikos in Athens, the last 2 times we met them. We went to Olympiacos last season and rode that out. We were unlucky to win the thing. What have we got? I mean, we've had great results against. We're 0-0, and did we lose? We lost 2-1 when we went to Serbia. Went to Belgrade against Red Star for the second leg of the last 16 tie in the run to Seville. We were 3-0 up for the first leg, and like tonight's game, I had predicted, because we won that game 3-0, maybe there'll not be much of an atmosphere for the second leg. Maybe the Red Star fans have kind of given up, and it'll be an easy ride for us. And the television was shaking with the noise they were making at the start of that second leg. So we had to. It was a balls out performance that night. They were up for it, and I'm hearing that there's 40,000 Panathinaikos fans ready to turn up at the 69,000 capacity Olympic Stadium in Athens for this one tonight. So I hope the Bears there are in good voice. The team itself, things going on with the team. The manager's pre-match presser, he was talking about how Thelo Asgard and I think they're kind of Greta Thunberg look-alike, and Hamza Egaman haven't travelled. They're not fit. They're not ready to go. Thelo Asgard, I definitely believe that is the case. We're waiting to see him take his first touch of a ball in anger for Rangers. But Egaman, I keep suspecting that there must be interest in him. There must be interest in him from other places. We know there's interest in him from Ligue 1, etc. People want to buy him, and maybe he's been protected, so he's available for that. The good news, of course, is the number 2, the Panathinaikos number 2, who gets sent off last week, vaginitis. It sounded like one of those creams you get advertised on telly, but he was one of their best players there, right back, and well done to Finlay Curtis for getting him sent off, basically by turning him inside out, and that same turn is what gave us the lead in the game from young Finlay. But I'm hearing rumours that he might actually be getting transferred to some. There's interest in this fellow, the right back, the first choice right back for Panathinaikos, but they're bringing in a Croatian international to replace him, so they should be okay. But it's a small consolation for us to know that he won't be playing. Jack Butland interview with Sky today talking about how hard things have been from at Rangers, but the fact that he's not in any way, he never thought about leaving, he never thought about going somewhere else, so he's up for the challenge. And he had a great first leg last week, did Jack? So hopefully he's not needed too much tomorrow night. I'm expecting it to be a really tough game. I don't know what kind of team we're going to put out there. The manager was basically saying, it made it sound as if Asgard is going to be picked. He's going to start. Somebody was asking him if he's fit enough. He said, well, he had the minutes on Saturday. He's ready to go, kind of thing. So Asgard, it's not Asgard, sorry. Gasserman. These guys with too many A's in their name, they're confusing old fellas like me. It's too much change to take on board. But Gasserman, ex of Sheffield Wednesday, who scored the second goal for us last Tuesday night, the thought is that he's going to be. It was made out by the manager that he was going to start. The tone implied that he was going to start the game. That would mean, I imagine, Findlay Curtis or Kieran Dow are going to be dropped. But I don't know how he's going to work it. We've also got Danilo or Dessers. The manager's claiming Dessers is fit and ready to go because he's got 45 minutes against Middlesbrough in that friendly on Saturday. His fitness isn't the best just now. I think Dessers, and there's also a lot of interest in him, so maybe he's a bit distracted, but he does well away from home in Europe. Ross McCausland, the last I saw, there was heavy rumours that he was going to be joining Leon Balogun and Connor Golson at Aris Limassol. He was off there on loan, a loan deal that's probably going to become permanent sooner rather than later. Quite a thing that if he goes off to join the club against who he scored his first ever goal for Rangers, having come off the bench to the boos that Philip Clement was taken off Todd Cantwell, but on came Ross McCausland and scored Rangers' only goal of the night to equalise against Aris Limassol. Ultimately, really crucial point that he earned us, scoring against Malmo in last season's Europa League group stage at the start of the group stage to finish off a game that nobody else could seem to finish off. They were dominating in terms of shots on goal, but they were all absolutely woeful, and on comes Ross McCausland to make it 2-0 and make the point secure that night. Wins the League Cup with us. Season before last, Ross McCausland, so whatever he gets up to, all the best to him, but he's clearly not in the new head coach's plans. Mason Munn has also gone. He's been loaned out to Neil Lennon at Dunfermline, so that's obviously a Northern Ireland conspiracy there. Neil Lennon hiring another Mason just because they play the same international side. But he had that game against. Oh my God, the Highland League side, Fraserburgh in the Scottish Cup last season. Mason won it, and it was 5-0 to us. He kept a clean sheet, but he did have a bit of a kind of slack moment where he really should have given. He was quite lucky not to give away a goal in that one. So he's a young fella, and he needs to get regular football. He's off to Dunfermline for a taste of that. So good luck to him. Hope he comes back an absolute winner, like Alan McGregor. I know he did the same thing. But was there any other news about people going out the door? Just apart from the fact that the manager in his pre-match presser tonight was saying, or last night, by the time you see this, was saying that there's going to be. He will confirm anybody coming in or anybody coming out. There's a lot of stuff up for grabs just now, but he was he was guarded about it without in any way trying to deny the fact that there's a lot of action going on transfer-wise behind the scenes right now. He talked too much for me. I'm getting the fear, obviously. I'm obviously getting the pre-match nerves, having backed Russell Martin for a good solid 2 weeks. I've now decided that he talks too much in his press conferences, but that's because I'm old school. That's because I'm a bit of a antediluvian, a bit anachronistic. I just atavistic. We're going to Greece. This is just the way it works just now. I imagine players need to be talked up all the time, but when he was talking, he was talking about we need to believe. We need to believe. And this is my huge fear. This is my fear that to go out of this tie, to be eliminated from the Champions League, would necessitate a bit of a collapse because we're 2-0 up. And it would also, it's how we do it. If we go out because we're playing the exact same style as last week, the exact same style as we played against Middlesbrough when we were putting together, when we brought on our subs, we brought on our kind of first team basically for the latter part of that friendly on Saturday. We put together a 36 pass move to score the first goal. which was absolutely lovely. But a lot of that involved playing the ball about, just in front of our box, playing the ball about quite deep, with the opposition forwards hovering. If we get that, if we're doing that in the red hot atmosphere of the Olympic Stadium Athens and it goes wrong, and then Russell Martin makes some comments afterwards about, well, you can't switch it on and off, you've got to keep playing the same style, and we're going to have to improve ourselves, we're obviously going to have to knit together, and you only get that through repetition. It'll be, could you not just have tried, could you not just have, like, saved the practice stuff? We see this idea of attacking football, I think as a supporter, guys my age, the dads or the granddads, we see having an ethos of attacking football as being a kind of pose almost, as being a bonus. It's like, just get the games won first and then you can do the attacking football. Whereas obviously that's not how it works. This is going to be your style. Attack is defence, and he's going to have to apply the same kind of style generally. And he was making noises today about he doesn't want to focus on not losing the 2-goal lead. He wants to focus on gaining a win in this game tonight. It's about stuff you're going for. I can't remember the exact phrase, but it wasn't thinking about avoiding a negative. It was thinking about gaining a positive, and that straight away kind of puts my back up. And he's saying that the players need to believe in what they're doing. They just keep believing in what they're doing and what we've told them. And anybody in life who tells you to just believe harder, I'm automatically kind of suspicious of them. But my greatest fear is that we go out to this game and Russell Martin then talks about how he's refused to basically. I would have us playing 5-4-1 tonight. I would have Connor Barron and Lyle Cameron on there either side of Joe Rothwell, and you'd be lucky if we had Danilo up front on his own. Or maybe just go 5-5 because that's just my instincts, just my age. That's how you progress in a 2-goal advantage from the first leg. But this horrible kind of premonition of Russell Martin coming out and just saying, no, you've got to stick with your ethos, and seeming like a fundamentalist, seeming like somebody who's just married to an idea, an ideologue, and I don't. That would set him back. There's a huge kind of a huge number, a huge slew of the Rangers support that are waiting for him to slip up. The heat will be a factor tonight. Russian teams as well. They're Orthodox, aren't they? I mean, we lost 4-3 at Spartak Moscow. Not all parts of Russia are Orthodox Christian, obviously. There's a lot of kind of various Muslim and other religions in that massive country. But Ufa, I don't know if they're Orthodox in that part of Russia. But we beat them under Steven Gerrard's last time we played Dynamo Moscow in Europe. We scalped them in Moscow. So we've got a good record against the Orthodox country. Oh no, the Cypriots, Aris Limassol, they'll be Greek Orthodox, won't they? Oh, Jesus Christ. Maybe we don't have a good record against Orthodox Christians, but remember there was a big banner in the Olympiacos game last season. They had a big banner along the front saying something about Serbia, kind of something about Orthodox folk together. It was quite interesting. We're playing at the Olympic Stadium. They're saying it's going to be hot. Prometheus, he invented fire. All that kind of stuff. You've got Hephaestus, who's the blacksmith to the gods, building that shield for Achilles, hammer, anvil, and tongs jabas. But it's quite a thing. I love getting this off the list. I love the fact I want to be able to enjoy it. That's one of the main reasons I want us to go through tonight, is so I can enjoy having played in the Olympic Stadium, even seen it on television, just that Rangers have played finally in the Olympic Stadium in Athens in a competitive match, because we don't actually. Have we ever played at Wembley? Have Rangers ever played at Wembley in any capacity? Let me know again. Write in, tell me if we have. It's quite a thing. The Heysel, I don't think we ever played at the King Bod one as it is now. I don't think we ever played there. Also, really famous for hosting European finals. I mean, you get the Stadio San Nicola and Bari. It's only hosted one European Cup final, the Metropolitano in Madrid. But the Stade de France, we haven't played there, I don't think, competitively or even in a friendly, really. So it's kind of weird. But we've played the Bernabeu, the Nou Camp, the Prater Stadium. Jim Baxter getting his leg broken, that kind of thing. We've played at Benfica, Stadium of Light, but the new one as opposed to the old Estadio de Luz. but it's San Siro. They played the main. They played in the main ones that actually have a kind of resident club. But a lot of the big venues we haven't really played in. The Olympic Stadium in Rome, let's say, been the main one. The ones that have hosted the European Cup final. You know, that one in the Stadio Nacional in Lisbon, for example. We've never played there. I don't think. Oh no, that's what I'm talking about. We haven't played there in European club competition, but we played there in the 40s, and maybe beat Benfica 3-0 in an exhibition match there, and they called us the Tigers. They called us the Tigers. We were the Lisbon Tigers. Quite unreal that. But I am really looking forward to us playing in this stadium, and I hope I can enjoy it. The thing I was going to mention earlier was I was watching a wee bit again. It's a Werner Herzog film, Werner Herzog, 1997. It's a documentary, but it's obviously it's a Werner Herzog film, so it's a bit different. But the main thing is the guy, the star, the subject of the documentary. Dieter Dengler is his name. Anyway, the film's called Little Dieter Needs to Fly. You can get it on YouTube now. I'll maybe put up a link if anybody ever reads this. It's a German-born fella who he was born in Germany just at the time of the Second World War. He's a kid in the Second World War, and it's all about food in so many ways. He basically gets shot down. He ends up going to America and joins the US Air Force because he's obsessed with becoming a pilot, and he gets sent over Laos, or Vietnam, maybe near the border, benefit of the doubt, and he gets shot down by the Viet Cong or the what do they call them, the Pathet Lao during that conflict. It's 1966, and he spends 6 months in captivity, and he escapes. But the bit I always remember, and this is Werner Herzog. Werner Herzog, the subject of a film where he eats his shoe. Werner Herzog eats his shoe, and he did that because he lost a bet. I'd just do it because there was nothing else in the house to eat. I've ate a few shoes. Also, he's in the lead child. What do you call the guy, Jack Reacher? He's in one of them with Tom Cruise. Werner Herzog actually acting, and he's talking about biting off his own fingers. He had to bite off his own fingers. The character he's playing. It just seems to be an obsession with Werner Herzog food in this film. Obviously, the Viet Cong there's dysentery and all that, and the guy kind of half starves to death, even though he eventually manages to escape. It's an incredible film. Little Dieter Needs to Fly. I would watch it if you get a chance. The guy's absolutely fascinating. Little Dieter is absolutely fascinating, a fascinating character. But the bit I always remember, and this is no surprise if you've seen The State of Me, is he talks about when he gets moved from prison camp to prison camp, and the Viet Cong or the Pathet Lao, these guys that work with the Viet Cong, they're trying to stay away from American airplanes and helicopters, so they're travelling through the jungle on foot, and they're running, they're hunting them through the jungle. They've got them tied up, and there's guys behind them, guys in front of them, and all that at gunpoint. But what they're doing, these guys they're just eating on the run. And what they do is they've got a little charcoal thing, a little thing full of charcoal. Yeah, we can have it's a hot pot, but it's on a chain because they're running, and there's always a flame. It's always burning. And they've also got these bamboo. They look like kind of brooms. They're kind of broom shaped, classic broom shape. There's got a fan at the top of the shaft, but it's little bits of bamboo that have just been cut, and they've got the sap is coming out the bamboo, so it's sticky. And what they're doing as they're all running, one guy's just going a bit like that, and he's whacking. He's just getting these wee birds, various birds on the trees in the jungle. He's catching them, getting them stuck to this glue before they can fly away. And then he brings them down and they kill them, and they stick them in the wee pot, and they just heat them up, and they're all sitting, they're just dishing out the little bits of bird, and they're all eating while they're on the run. And I think that's the greatest metaphor ever for what Russell Martin has got to do as we head into it's just all business now this season. That's what Russell Martin's got to do. He has got to just keep us moving, keep going forward. But the idea that he's going to get any patient, that he'll not be allowed to give us stuff to eat while we move forward, while we learn how to play his style of football. That's something he's got to wake up to. He's going to have to give us little snacks. He's going to have to catch these things as he moves, as he goes forward. Maybe a League Cup, maybe even a Scottish Cup would satisfy us this season. European group stage football of some sort is definitely needed to sustain us. But he talks, this character in Little Dieter Needs to Fly. It's a true story. The guy's absolutely amazing, and he talks about how when they turned up at camp, when they got to the next prison camp, they were never hungry. They turned up, they'd already eaten. That's what we need going into next season, with the same head coach, but we're not hungry. There's not a desperation. You've got to win this. You've got to win because we've picked up a wee trophy here and we've cut down the gap between us and Celtic at the top of the table. And this all starts tonight. It all starts tonight. If we could just get through this tie, however we can get through it, still in the Champions League, get into the next stage of the Champions League, eliminate Panathinaikos, a famous European name from Europe, then we will be, I think, off to the best possible start. And then it's on to Fir Park, where, we have, we played football under a new manager, like football from the future, when we went there once under Paul Le Guen. So maybe it means little. And he was, the next time he was at Fir Park was his last game in charge of Rangers. So it maybe doesn't mean very much if we got off to a great start, but it's definitely going to help, I think, in the long run in this instance. Okay, that's it, folks. The summer's over, the holidays are over. It's all business from now on. We're going to be at it every day, or every 2 or 3 days. On this podcast, but we need to, there's like a big game tonight, so I want you to get to it. No, it's me. It's going to get to my bed. You're probably watching this in the morning. That's me. It's actually got to get to my bed. Lights out time. We may be a bunch of new faces, but we're still Rangers. Champions League, League Cup. We've got to win them all. New head coach and new signings, but we're still Rangers. And these new employees need our help if they're going to walk tall. I better switch off this podcast because my patter's